Alright, back with some more bird action. We're going second. My opponent kept a rat and 3 cards. It's a little scary. Looks like we got a good forest bird. A lot of double birds in our starting hand. That's not really that great. Food web expert goes well with oyster catcher, and that can be our wetland bird. We have rough in the tray. I suspect my opponent is going to grab that right off the bat. And hopefully we do have a couple worms in the bird feeder. So I think we're going to roll with this. We got filled columns for round 1. Maybe I should keep the pipit as well. I can use the wheat to play the nuthatch, gain a second worm, play the oyster catcher, and then gain food a couple times, get the pipit down. Let's roll with that. So my opponent did grab rough, but they revealed black-headed gull. I have to take that. That's just a great wetland bird. So my opponent led with chipping sparrow, which is really good egg-laying bird for the forest. I think I'm going to throw down the gull here. Change of plans. It's hard to ignore that hooded warbler with food web expert. But I might actually grab this hummingbird and throw that in my wetlands as well. We got the makings of a good tucking engine. Food gain from our opponent. What do they got? 2 rats. So that's not really that great for us, the fact that they have 2 rats. We really can't employ that. I can draw the spotted owl, though, and steal the rat. Kind of a consolation prize. I suppose I could have drawn that hummingbird like I was talking about previously, but I'm really liking the look of this owl. And the hummingbird is still in the tray. My opponent plays Cooper's Hawk. Predator tucking bird in the forest. They have no wetland development for card draw. And if they're focusing on a forest development, they might have a harder time developing their column 1, but they can still gain plenty of food here. So they have 1 rat still. So let's draw the hummingbird. We'll steal the rat. And now we're in position to play the spotted owl. My opponent gained food again. They have a fish here. Hopefully that's not a Franklin's gull or a white stork could be coming. They have 3 food. So let's throw down our spotted owl. Work toward the round goal. Ecologist is probably going to work out fairly well here. Diet specialist isn't horrible. But I think with what we got going on right now, I'm going to go with ecologist. As soon as I play a grassland bird, I'll pick up 2 points. So we see the rough in the wetlands. So I'm glad that's not a white stork. They've got 1 fish left. Hopefully that's not a Franklin's gull. There's no fish in the bird feeder. And if they do have a Franklin's gull in hand, I want to deny that. We're entering into round 2 soon here. And I want to limit their ability to play that gull if they have it. So I'm going to take the hooded warbler here for my food web expert. And I'm going to take this fish. And that'll give us the food we need to play the hummingbird. I think I might actually play it into column 1 here to work toward the round goal. So my opponent drew cards. They took a cherry from the bird feeder. Interesting. So I think I will throw down the hummingbird in the grasslands. Here we see Eastern Phoebe from our opponent. So they'll be handing out some worms. That'll be nice. We'll have some co-op going on here. So we're both on the board for the round goal. I think I'm actually going to lay eggs here. And we're going to hand out a food with the hummingbird. And I'm going to go first. And I'm going to take a worm. We'll probably play this chickadee down in the forest. Or maybe we'll work on getting a second worm to play our oyster catcher in the wetlands. So we're going first in round 2. And the tray reveals Ruddy Duck. So that's a great bird. We're going to grab that. And do I want to spend the egg on an extra card? I don't think I do, because we're going to be seeing a lot of cards with the Ruddy Duck. And my opponent has access to wheat. I think I am going to take it. They can just replenish it. And then we'll throw down our Ruddy Duck. We also have food for the nuthatch, should we need it. Gain food from our opponent. They have 2 wheat and a worm. Round 2 goal is... The round 2 goal is brown powers. So I think I'm going to throw down this Ruddy Duck, just in case we need to draw something important that comes up in the tray that improves our draw card action. Eurasian Nuthatch from our opponent. Food caching bird, another brown power for them. Let's match them with our Nuthatch. So my opponent gained food. They're sitting on a wheat and a cherry. Bird feeder's got a fish and a rat. That food isn't that great. I think I'm going to draw cards here and take one of my opponent's wheat with the gull, and we drew a raven. Top deck skills. Black Chind is good. Let's take this wheat. They can't replace it. And that puts the bird feeder in a position for us to re-roll it. Of course, their turn is coming up, so they can just flip it themselves. And we'll discard the gray heron. So my opponent drew cards. So now our number 1 goal is to get this raven down and start playing these worm-eating birds. So there's a rat in the bird feeder. I need to lay eggs in order to play my next bird, so I am going to lay eggs here, and I am going to grab that rat, and a bunch more rats show up in the bird feeder, but no worms, no fish, no cherries, so that might actually not be that beneficial to my opponent. They do have a fish and a cherry, so no worms though, that could hurt them. That might actually force them to use their Phoebe there to hand out a worm to everybody, and that would give us the 3 food we need to play the Raven on our next activation. So I still need 1 food for my Raven. I need any type of food. My opponent is sitting on a bunch of wheat. That could be a red-legged partridge or a quail. 2 activations left in the round. I think I'm just going to draw cards here and steal the food from my opponent. Maybe we'll see Benelli or Eastern Imperial. So luck is really on our side here. We're really getting fortunate with these top decks. He keeps holding on to this fish. I wonder what that is. If I take it, he can just replace it. I think I'm going to take this wheat. If I take the cherry, he can replace the cherry. He's got plenty of wheat. And we'll discard this Screech Owl. took the second fish. Wonder if that's like black-throated diver, or that might be black skimmer or a ninga if they're desperate for a wetland bird. Another brown power. Common loon is what they played. And let's drop our raven here. It's the end of the first half, end of round 2, so it's a slow raven, but this thing is still going to put in work for us. And then we'll just do what ravens do: lay eggs, gain food, and play bombs. And they're handing out a card with their loon. They're probably getting a little bit desperate for some options here. We're kind of climbing into the dominant position here. That's going to help our Eastern Imperial Eagle. Tied on the round goal. Round 3 goal is going to be kind of a bummer for us, birds with no eggs, and we got a good grassland engine we want to run, so we're probably going to come in second here. Well, there we see black-throated diver in the tray, and another hummingbird. We want to make sure to get the oyster catcher down and the warbler down for food web expert. Another free card. Don't mind that. Goldfinch is good. My opponent has a predator tucking bird. So let's start gaining food with our raven. Let's see, what do we want to get down first? There is a cherry in the bird feeder. We could get this goldfinch down just to stop his Cooper's hawk. And it is a nice large nest. Let's gain that 2 wheat. We can get the cherry off the bird feeder. And they did replace their cherry, so they want that for something. That might be a cedar waxwing, or it could be a mockingbird. They laid eggs, and we got a free worm. That's always great. We're sitting on a lot of food here. So let's stick with the plan and throw down the goldfinch. There's a Baltimore Oriole from our opponent. Good bomb for them. Let's throw down our Eastern Imperial Eagle to burn off some more eggs. Might keep that peregrine. What am I going to chuck though? My opponent took that worm in the tray. I was going to hand out an extra food with the hummingbird if that worm was still there and take it, so we could play our warbler and our oyster catcher in the next 2 turns. We have to lay eggs here to gain our food. How are we doing on the round goal? We're ahead there. Let's gain 2 worms. And let's see. Do I want to play this falcon? There is a rat in the bird feeder. Could throw it in the grasslands for some potentially extra points. And it gives me another nest for the grasslands. I could use the wheat for the cerulean warbler, another bonus card bird. Pipit is competing with the falcon here. I think I am going to grab the wheat here for the cerulean warbler, keeping an eye on ecologist. But we'll also want to play the hooded warbler as well in the forest. We're going to need to get the oyster catcher down for column 3. I think we're ahead here, so we can comfortably hand out some extra food. They've handed out extra food and cards. Boy, my opponent is really sitting on this wheat. I wonder what they're holding it for. They're planning on playing Canada Goose or Sandhill Crane or something. They don't have a House Sparrow on the board. There's a Long Spur. Nice bonus card bird. We're going to keep playing birds, fulfilling our multiple objectives here. In any one habitat, I gotta make sure I read these right. I screwed up ethologist and behaviorist in one of my previous games here. Brown, white, pink, teal birds in any one habitat, and we're scoring 6 points from it. Citizen scientist is garbage, so we're gonna take that. We're pressuring this round goal further with more bird plays. We can put the oyster catcher now down in column 3 to help with ecologist and also work more toward the round goal. So things are really working out for us here. My opponent has no eggs here, so if they want to play another bird, they actually only have one activation left, so they're not going to be able to play a bird. My opponent gained food, so they got all kinds of stuff going on here. Could be anything coming. And we can play our oyster catcher here. Gaining another bird with no eggs on it. So let's see, my opponent has how many cavity nests? 3. My opponent might actually want this ash-throated flycatcher here. It will help them with the round goal and to lay some extra eggs. They could really like the indigo bunting as well. What's going to be more helpful to them? The indigo bunting? They have the food to play it. I think I'm going to deny the bunting, and I suspect they take that ash-throated flycatcher. Should be fairly appealing to them. And as expected, they took the flycatcher. We won that round goal. Things are looking up. My opponent gained more food. So now we need eggs in the grasslands. So what do we want here? We need to get the hooded warbler down. We had a teal power for the grasslands. That would work out really well for ethologist. Getting the peregrine down would help us work toward getting some extra points. Potentially. The pipit is a good bonus card bird. It's 2 points less than the peregrine. So it would have to make up 2 points on a bonus card plus any more points the peregrine might make up. We've got a lot of birds on the board. So the pipit could actually pull a fairly decent bonus card. Omnivore would be really good for us right now. I think I'm actually going to just take the guaranteed points here with the Peregrine Falcon. Do I want to hand out the food? There's nothing in the bird feeder I really want, so I'm not going to hand this out. More food for my opponent, so I wonder if they're gearing up for some type of double play. Bluebird, ash-throated flycatcher would be pretty good. I think the bluebird, one of the bluebirds has a cavity nest. I'm actually going to play this peregrine in the wetlands because of ecologist. There's Puffin from our opponent. Good bonus card bird. I need worms for my warbler here. So we're going to gain that. And I could, there's 2 activations left. I could play the pipit on the final activation. I think I'm just going to hand out the food here. My opponent is kind of food rich, and I feel like we're fairly far ahead. And I can kind of gamble on this pipit a little bit because my grasslands is only a 4-point engine, and the pipit will be a 2-point play, but it could pull a much larger bonus card, scoring more points than what it would be to run my grassland here. So there's the flycatcher for my opponent. So now I look at this, I only have 2 activations left, so I can't play the warbler, gain more food, and then play the pipit. So I think I'm going to just go with the guaranteed points here, and my opponent might actually take this round goal from me. They can gain 4 eggs, they'll have 6, and I will only have 3. But then I can lay eggs on my last activation here and win this round goal. So pipit is kind of out of the equation there, so I didn't have to hand out that wheat. Nice beefy play with food web and ecologist. And we see the European Robin from my opponent as their second to last play. I wonder if that isn't viticulturalist, because that would be a maxed viticultural send for them. Makes sense. So I am just going to lay eggs for our final activation. And it looks like we're just going to barely win this round goal by 1 egg. And it looks like they must have went for a bird. They didn't even bother to win or try to win the round goal because they knew they couldn't. Anyways, if you liked that game, that Raven action, Imperial Eagle action, please hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. We did fairly equally well on bonus card birds, or on bonus cards and bird points here. And food on cards, 0. Oh my gosh. Good game, Groove. Lost by 1 point. That's crazy. I can't believe that. What a crazy game. Let's check his board out and his bonus cards. Maxed out Passerine, maxed out Viticulturalist, Wetland Scientist. Incredible. Won by 1 point. I would have never expected that. It looked like we had just such a much more commanding game.